Welcome, everyone. This is Drinks and Reviews podcast. Thank you all for joining the show. I'm your host, Illyrio. Got my daughter, Isabel. I also got Dave. What's up, Dave?
What's up, Illyrio? What's up, Izzy?
Hi. We also got Dan, which is Dave's brother. How's it going, Dan?
It's going.
All right. And we also got Nelson. What's up, Nelson?
Yo.
Hey, what's everybody drinking, man? I got Little Monkey Shoulder. What do you got? What do you guys got?
I got, I'm doing this here.
Nice, some wine.
Yeah. Wine by the fire. See? Very nice.
Wine by the fire. What about you, Dan?
I've got some H2O over by my sink next to me. So
you got the best drink, man.
It's the greatest stuff.
What about you, Nelson? What are you drinking, man?
Some wine. I think it's Traders.
This is a show where we don't toss our lightsabers away. We do not fly like Mary Poppins in space. Nope. And we do not toss bombs in space and not worry about gravity.
True.
And then we eat porgs. All right.
Oh, wait. What's this? Wait.
Exactly. But we'll get to that a little bit later. So, you know, I'll go ahead and start off, man. I went to see the movie again today, my second viewing. And the first time I saw the movie, I think I gave it 5 stars. And after the second viewing, my review doesn't change one bit. There's some good parts in the movie. There's some
5 stars out of 10.
enjoyed. But overall, man, I was.
Did you give it 5 stars?
Yeah,
5 stars out of 10?
5 out of 10, man.
Oh.
Yeah, not 5 stars out of 5.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's very confusing.
Yeah,
that was very confusing.
Well, like the movie.
like the movie. But yeah, overall, I wasn't. It's actually my second least favorite Star Wars movie out of all of them. And we'll get more into details as to why. But as a whole, I wasn't too impressed, man. Like I said, there's some great parts in the movie here and there. There's some great action. But after watching The Force Awakens, after watching Rogue One, I came into this movie with high expectations because I enjoyed the previous 2 movies. Dan, what did you think of the movie as a recap, man? Did you enjoy it?
Definitely. I came out surprised by a lot of things. Where you said you enjoyed Rogue One and The Force Awakens, I was kind of the opposite. I got the impression from those 2 films, while I did think they're great Star Wars films, I felt overall they lacked, I guess, a certain expansion of the universe that I think I've seen in The Last Jedi, and a lot of the concepts about the Force and about the good versus evil, Kylo versus Rey, Luke versus, the Sith, the balance in the Force, that challenged the concept that I previously had. And I thought it was a very unique take on, the film series. So overall, I enjoy that aspect and thought it was a great film overall.
Okay. What about
With
you?
some flaws.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm not trying to say it's the best film ever. So
Got you.
Just going into that.
What'd you think, Dave? As a recap, man, what did you think overall?
So, I liked Rogue One a lot, actually, and it was a movie that I've watched over and over again, and I continue to like, and I continue to find things that I like more that I didn't catch or didn't like before in my other views. I like The Force Awakens. I like the setups. The Force Awakens to me was them introducing new characters because, Luke and Leia and Han, are just going to be the, passing that torch over to new characters, and I appreciated it for that, and it really hyped me up for this movie, to be able to kind of answer some questions I had about Rey's parents and Snoke, and waiting for that scene, that fighting scene with Finn and Captain Phasma, that everybody was hyped up about, and I sat there in the film, and the first 5 minutes of the movie, I think Poe does some kind of a mom joke or something to Hux. I don't know if you remember that or caught that. I just looked, and for a minute I'm like, am I watching Spaceballs? Like,
Yeah.
And it just kind of not ruined it, but kind of changed the tone of the movie for me from that point on. I was just expecting more of that, and I got more of that, and I'll go on.
Okay.
To the rest of it later, but yeah.
What do you think, Nelson?
I think the movie was illusion. That's the word I want to use, because when you watch the trailer, you think it's going to be one way, and then they go down that path, and you're disappointed. Or I'll put it to you like this: I didn't think it was that bad when I got out of the theater. Then when I started thinking about the parts, I was just disappointed. You know, you look at the detail, and you know the internet's open. Everybody says the same things. You know what's interesting to them, and you know Snoke, Rey's parents, all these things that people were hyped up for. I feel like they're like, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something else. And I think that's where a lot of people, you know, are disappointed. And you see in Rotten Tomatoes review that people, you know, aren't digging it. The critics love it, but
yeah,
you know, it's a letdown.
Right. And to add to that, you know, when I watched The Force Awakens, man, you know, The Force Awakens is not a perfect movie by all means, right? But I actually enjoyed The Force Awakens. And then, you know, we got introduced to several new characters. We got Rey, which, by the way, doesn't even have a last name, right? We've always been wondering since The Force Awakens, is she a Kenobi or is she a Skywalker, right? So that's one. Then we ended up getting introduced to Supreme Leader Snoke, who's a pretty powerful, manipulative villain, right? And we only got him in hologram form. So that's two. Then we ended up getting Captain Phasma, who, by the way, was marketed like crazy right before The Force Awakens even
The new Boba Fett.
Exactly, right? So we got that character, and in the end, the character had a very small part in the whole movie, man. So that's right. And then we ended up getting at the end, we got Luke Skywalker, who we all love and watched in the previous movies, right? The original trilogy or what have you. And we only got to see him for about maybe 5 seconds, if that. And he didn't say one word, right? So at the end of The Force Awakens, man, I'm like, oh, man, the next movie, I'm going to see Luke Skywalker kick some butt. You know, I was excited about that. I was excited about, okay, hopefully we get to find out who Rey's parents are. Is she a Kenobi or a Skywalker? And then hopefully we get some background on Leader Snoke, right? So while we're waiting for that, another movie comes along, and it's Rogue One. And to me, Rogue One is an amazing film. I've seen that movie many times, and I love Rogue One. So leaving The Force Awakens, I enjoyed it. Rogue One came out, I'm up here already because it's so great. So going into this movie, my expectations, honestly, man, were way up here because I was hoping to see answers to many questions that we all had, right? The biggest one being, who's Rey's parents? Background on Leader Snoke. And then because of the fan outcry, Captain Phasma didn't have a huge role. They came out and said, oh, she's going to have a bigger role in The Last Jedi. And we just saw The Last Jedi, and if that's a bigger role, that was not a big role, man. I mean, her fight scene lasted no more than 10 seconds, if that. Again, a very small part. So, you know, the after watching it 2 times, like I said, there's many parts in the movie that I love and that I enjoy, like the Praetorian Guard fight, right? That was really awesome, man. And watching it in IMAX in the big screen, it was really cool, man. And that part was tight. Some of the battle scenes in space was really cool. But I think the disappointment for me, man, is really not answering those questions that we all had, man. And that's one part. And then the other part was some of the comedy, man. It's like, I thought the comedy, I know every Star Wars has some comedy, but I feel like in this movie,
it's sprinkled.
They
sprinkled. It's not.
Exactly. Up. And I think in this movie, they just put, and I'm gonna call it out, man. The Porgs they had, like I said in my review, they had more screen time than Captain Phasma, man. Captain Phasma being a really cool, badass character, and these little creatures had more screen time than that character, right?
They turned Chewie into a cat lady.
But you know what, Ilario? Really quick about Phasma, which
let's talk about Phasma. What did you think, man?
Just really quick with Phasma. So, like you know, I was hyped. I was ready for a huge scene with either, you know, her fighting Finn or something. And what's really sad is that she's a strong female character. You know, that's another strong female character in the Star Wars series. And yeah, she's an evil character, but that makes it even better. I mean, she was a badass. and she, you know, she walked around like, you know, before even the movie came out, you didn't know who Phasma or Kylo Ren was. You thought Phasma was probably going to be even more evil than Kylo Ren, just the way the character looked.
Right.
And it turns out, as you know, with The Force Awakens is a quick exit. And then in this movie, him fighting her and then cracking her helmet open, and then you see that she's under there. You know, you see that she's there, but what was the reason of, like, I just didn't understand. They could have used her a lot better. I think she would have been a lot better than Hux, because I'm not a fan of General Hux.
Right.
He's overacted a little bit in this movie. I felt more than in Force Awakens, and I just think that she would have been better in that position than what they put her in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She should have been a higher up person than Hux.
Dan, what did you think of Phasma, man?
Really disappointed with, you know, the lack of building they did with her character. I felt like in a lot of the discussion, I felt that The Force Awakens, in my opinion, didn't do enough to expand on some of these characters in the first film. That Rian Johnson was given a very large task to kind of wrap up plots. He didn't need to kill her. We don't even know if she's actually dead, to be honest. I've seen theories about her maybe living, but that's a lot of fans hoping that she has a longer story, which I hope so as well, because her character in her timeline, if she does die in The Last Jedi, is very weak. And I felt The Last Jedi, it's not The Last Jedi's fault as much as it is The Force Awakens' fault for not building her up. And I personally, I complained a lot. I mean, she's shown as this really badass person, like my brother put it. And in The Force Awakens, she gets bonked on the head, and she basically is solely responsible for bringing down the entire Star Killer base. So, you know, I felt like she could have been given a little more time in The Last Jedi. But as I said, a lot of work to do, and there's still a lot of problems with the movie. But The Force Awakens left a lot of questions that needed to be answered, and this was one. I think he was kind of had his hands tied to put into a 5 to 10 minute scene.
Yeah, Nelson. Before I get your thoughts on Phasma, I just wanted to add something in regards to Phasma, man. If you really think about it, though, she came into this movie in The Last Jedi right at the part when Finn and Rose got caught, right? So they get caught, and then all of a sudden the ship is destroyed. And then she fights Finn. That whole screen time, man, I'm like, if you really think about it, it's like, if they didn't have her at all in this movie, I would have been fine with it, just because the disappointment in her part on this movie. You know what I mean? It's like, what was the whole point of her even being in the movie, man? Other than, hey, you know what? Let's just throw in a fight in there with Finn.
You know what it was, Ilario? You know what it was? Is they needed film to put in the trailer. They needed something.
We actually saw that in the trailer. Yeah,
you saw that, and you saw. Yeah, and there's another scene where Rey's running across the desert at night with her lightsaber. That was in the trailer too. Remember that?
I didn't.
It wasn't in the movie.
It was never in the movie, and I'm like, there's a lot of things that were in the trailer. You know, of course, in Star Wars trailers always try to do sleight of hand with you. They always, like Maz Kanata reaching out to Leia in Force Awakens. You thought it was, Leia reaching out to her, but it was Maz,
right.
The way they edit it. But this movie, like, the trailer was better than the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why I said it's illusion. It was an illusion movie.
Yeah, it's magic.
What'd you think of Phasma, Nelson?
Honestly, dude, I'm not going to get into it like you guys. I'm just going to say, when I heard Finn say, Chrome Dome, I was like, this movie's garbage. Because it just came off cheesy, man. A lot of cheesy lines.
I'll tell you, I know Dan wants her to come back, and I was thinking about that after the second viewing, and after I saw that, she had her helmet, she has a hole in her helmet, you can see her eye, and she falls down to fire. And at that point, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I don't want her to bring her back, man. One part of me doesn't want her to bring her back. And the only reason I say that is because I don't want to be disappointed again. And then the other part, I'm like, you know what? Maybe they should bring her back. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why. Because I like The Force Awakens. J.J. Abrams is back for Episode 9, and maybe he'll give her needed screen time. So So it's like I'm half and half, man. If they don't bring her back, I'm fine with it, and if they do, I just don't want to be disappointed, you know. Like Dan said, like you guys said, badass character, man, all chromed out, and then to me, it's like a waste of character, man.
The problem is that J.J. Abrams has like a really bad turd to polish. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know how he would fix this movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Unless somebody wakes up and is like, oh, that was a dream. This is what's going on. You know, like, I don't know.
Well, check this out, though, with Phasma real quick.
Yeah.
With Phasma, she could have survived. I mean, her suit could have kept her from getting burned. I mean, we don't know what that suit's made out of. We don't know what it is. She can have a scar on her face like Kylo now because, you know, she has no protection there on her face.
Right.
You know, and I would like to see her back, but like you said, I don't want to see her come back if she's going to be on the screen for 30 seconds.
Right.
I really think that's a character that's underdeveloped. All right, I'm done with that.
What exactly happened? Did she fall into space, or did she fall like deep?
Well, she fell into a ball of fire, actually.
It was in space. Like, how it is fire?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
What I was going to say is that she has a rebreather, like, and it did crack where, you know, her eye was, but
right.
You know, okay. I'm not wanting her to go on in the next episode. I'm saying she deserves more screen time. So you never know.
Okay. All right, so let's switch over to Supreme Leader Snoke, man. What did you guys think, man? Dave, I'll start out with you, man. What did you think of Supreme Leader Snoke in this movie, man?
Here, let me grab him here so I can talk to him here with you. You see him? Is he there? Can you see him?
Yes.
A little low, but yeah.
There he is.
Oh wait, hold on.
Okay. All right, you got him?
Yeah, there you go.
And then I got this one, Dave. I know you got this one already.
Oh, I don't have that one.
You don't have this one?
No, not yet, brother. I had to. This movie made me put a pause on these little guys. But anyway, so about Snoke, I was really, you know, looking back at Force Awakens and seeing how it was a, you know, this guy looked mean, man, and you knew he was a hologram, and you knew I was even expecting him to be that big. I mean, I was thinking of something crazy with this guy, right?
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and who's this guy and where is he? And there were so many, you know, and, you know, even Star Wars itself kind of made people guess who's this guy. And then when I saw him, I mean, I liked the scene of the Emperor Room. A lot of people said it looked empty, like this big red thing. I liked it. I thought it looked ominous. I really liked it. And I just felt him as a weak character. I mean, he threw Kylo Ren on the ground and drug him across the ground, and with Rey, and he had so much power. Yet at that scene, he didn't expect the lightsaber to turn and kill him. I don't
He's
know.
that powerful that he couldn't figure out that something was moving his purpose.
Let me add to that, Dave, because when I watched it the second time around, my daughter and I were watching that particular scene, and I was excited because that scene came on about 2 hours into the movie.
Yeah.
And Leader Snoke is basically, he's saying it to Rey, you know, because she's like turned around, and he's telling Kylo Ren to basically, you know, go ahead and do what you got to do, right?
Right.
Dude, the next two lines he says, my daughter and I look at each other and we're like, what the heck? Listen, this is what he says. He says, I can read his mind, talking about Kylo Ren, and I know his intentions. And while he's saying that, that's when Kylo Ren is actually slightly turning the lightsaber. And I'm like, if he can do all that, why can't he look at that? All he had to do is look down. And I'm like, oh my God, he's just telling Rey that he can read his mind and he knows his intentions, but yet he can't figure that out, that he's about to
go back. Well, go back to Return of the Jedi. You know, I mean, did the Emperor not realize that Vader was going to do that to him? But maybe he intentionally wanted him to do that.
Because,
I tell you what, the way he got killed was kind of cool. I don't know, man. It just kind of threw me off, and I'm like, oh, wow. Anyways, what'd you think, Dan?
For Snoke as a character and his arc so far, yes, there is a lot more he deserves that deserves to be known about him, and I I'm pretty sure there's going to be stuff about him in the next episode. Not because J.J. Abrams feels there's a need to. I feel like he is instrumental behind how Kylo turned to the dark side, and we're going to see stuff about like the Knights of Ren. So I feel like
that's something else.
in the next episode, I feel like
that.
Kylo's turn to the dark side is going to be explained a little bit more. But I feel like the way he was killed off was appropriate, in the fact that this whole film, to me, the entire thing that Rian Johnson was trying to do was break the cycle. Star Wars has always been about good and evil, balancing
it's been about
the Force,
the Skywalkers.
Exactly, and about breaking the cycle was killing off this Sidious figure so early on, and showing that Kylo has other plans. And Rey, there's kind of this gray area that it isn't so much good and evil until, of course, the end, where it's kind of clear cut. But definitely, I think that's important to say. Just kind of like how Luke threw the lightsaber behind him, like things are changing. The cycle is breaking, and the rule of two. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Yeah, there's two.
That just kind of disappeared now because of what happened. Well, it kind of followed through, and that Kylo stepped up and took power through that. But it was interesting, unexpected, and something I really love about this film.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess for me, I wanted kind of more backstory on that guy, right? I wanted to know more about him, right? Hopefully, like you said, maybe they will reveal more in the next movie. Do you
really think so, though, man? I mean, do you really think they're gonna do that? Because why?
I don't think they will. I don't think they will, man. But we're probably not gonna find out. I guess they're just gonna.
But that's the biggest gripe I have about this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the biggest gripe. It's they threw away all my reasons for wanting to see this movie.
Right.
The reason I wanted to see this movie is because I wanted to find out who Rey's parents were. I wanted to find out about Snoke. I wanted to see that fight scene that we didn't get because they built it up for us. All of those things I wanted to see, and they literally, it was like a, Luke throwing that lightsaber was basically like throwing everything that you care about or wanted to care about or meant anything out the window. It didn't matter anymore.
What's Star Wars without Jedis, or Sith? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it's about.
And you know what? A lot of people. Yeah, and a lot of people wanted to see this movie, not for action and fighting scenes, that's fine. But they wanted to see it for the story. They wanted the story to continue from the last movie, like every single Star Wars movie does. And it didn't. It just said, you know what, it's almost like I'm slamming on the brakes, okay? Forget everything you learned. Like they took out the little Men in Black pin and they flashed us all in the theater and said, this is not a Star Wars movie. This is what a Star Wars movie is now. And guess what? If you don't like it, it's too bad. Because look at the box office numbers. Yeah. It's still a success even though it's a failure.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk real quick about before we move on to the next one, huh? Go ahead.
Here's what I think of Supreme Leader Snoke.
All right.
What does it say?
Hey, that looks like your dad. Put that up.
But hey, real quick before we move on to the next subject. So that whole fight scene though, man, to me it was really good, man. I enjoyed the Praetorian Guards in action. Yeah. One thing I was glad that Disney didn't do with these guys, because if you think about it, they were marketed almost like Captain Phasma was marketed with The Force Awakens, right?
Yeah.
They were all over the place. Everywhere you looked at, you could see all these guards all over the place, right? Billboards and at the stores, etc. And we got to see them in action, which we didn't get to see Captain Phasma in The Force Awakens in action, right? So I was glad they did that. And I thought, actually, that was the highlight for me for the whole film, man, is that whole scene, how the fighting, I thought was really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Hey, Danny, real quick. Danny said something to me before I forget. Didn't you say something to me about the guards in, was it Empire or was it Return of the Jedi? That the Emperor,
in Return of the Jedi, you see them.
How when Luke was trying to fight the Emperor, he told the guards to leave.
Yeah, and I stated how that was his overconfidence, and that had a lot to do with how Snoke, being unaware of the situation as it was unfolding, kind of willed that they stay there. He didn't try to bring him over, and they didn't take action because it was unexpected for him. But
right, that's interesting, man.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I thought that Snoke was still alive when his body moved.
Hey, I thought he was gonna reattach. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude.
like Terminator 2.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think you see kind of like the camera look down at his body, and I'm like, is he about to move?
It fell. The body fell, but nothing happened. I was like, okay, never mind.
Right. But
he's still alive, but his name is Broke now instead of Snoke.
Leader Broke. Hey, so let's switch over to before we go to Luke, let's switch over to Rey. So, the big question for me again was who's Rey's parents, right? Is she a Kenobi or a Skywalker, right? And do you guys think that Kylo Ren is lying to her, or do you think he's telling the truth?
I think she might be related to him somehow because, how the relationship with Leia and Luke, they could sense each other, but they have a stronger bond than they do.
Right.
But I also think her name's like a play on words, kind of, like Ray of Hope type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're related somehow. We're probably going to find out in the next movie.
Yeah. What about you, Dave?
The old Dave, the pre-Last Jedi Dave, would say, yeah, I hope that her parents are some, or this or this and that, because it made you believe that they were somebody special. Something, they showed the ship flying away in Force Awakens, and in this movie it was basically her looking through the mirror like you look at the mirror in the bathroom, all the little reflection. I didn't understand that part.
Yeah,
I didn't understand that, but I was actually expected to have her parents reveal there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that was shadow coming out.
And another part where I thought her parents were going to be revealed, man, was the part when Supreme Leader Snoke pulled her into that mirror.
The vision.
Yeah, I thought her parents were going to be right there. I thought he was going to reveal that to her, and that wasn't the case. But I think that with Episode 9, they need to say something, man. They need to reveal something, because let's say Episode 9 comes around and we don't know who her parents are.
But I do think Kylo's lying to her because, one of the main things he even said, and Snoke was upset with Kylo, was he's like, have you let go of it yet? Are you still holding on to that? He wanted him to kill Solo. He wanted him to kill his mother. And you saw that he couldn't kill his mother. He just couldn't do it. He couldn't let go. And Snoke saw that in him, and Kylo recognized that he saw that in him. So he wanted Rey to come with him and join him. And the only way to do that was to make her believe that she has nobody. She's on her own. She has nobody. And I think he was lying to her. But again, it could be nothing as well.
Yeah, because the way the movie makes it seem, it's like, oh no, hey, they're what were they? They were like bums or something. They were just like
they were alcoholics or
they were junkers.
Junkers.
Yeah, very, very odd direction. Like, I want to know if the studio looked at it like, dude, are you sure you want to do this?
It's almost like two stories. Like, they wanted to go a certain way with Force Awakens, and then when Rian Johnson came in, it was like, well, let's turn it, because, why make it so unnecessary for things in this movie? Why the big scene when she's handing him his lightsaber at the end of Force Awakens?
Yeah,
every single person you ask, if you ask them, what do you want to see happen next, right? Like, what did you want to see happen next, Lario? She hands him the lightsaber. What would you have written on that part?
I wouldn't have tossed it. That wouldn't have been my direction, man. I think I would have had him use the Force and get the lightsaber instead of grabbing it. But for sure, I wouldn't have tossed it, man. When he did that, my reaction was like, what the, like, it kind of threw me off, man. And I'm like, and if you really think about it, because that's at the beginning of the movie, right?
Yep.
When he does that, it literally changes the direction of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Right.
You thought it was going to be one way, like he was going to train her or something.
Exactly.
And you're like,
I
oh,
guess
this is going on with my sister.
I guess at that point, I guess at that point, they expected us to say, oh, wait, this is definitely different, right?
This is a comedy.
Yeah. Comedy. But yeah, I didn't like it one bit, man. I definitely wouldn't have tossed it away. I would have grabbed it, but not tossed it away, man.
You know what? You could have played around with the whole him not wanting to do it, though. That's fine.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But then...
sorry, before we get too far into it, can I say my take on Rey's parents?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a lot of things to say about Luke. I don't want to... It's okay. So my take, basically, I think I've already told this to my brother. If Kylo's lying, which he has reason to, he was clearly trying to convince her that her future was with him and that they together would be more powerful, rule the galaxy, stuff like that. And his whole take on destroy the past, you don't need it, and stuff like that, his saying about that would make sense for him to lie to her and say something like that. Right. But if it's true, I think that's also an important message for the film series as a whole. Like I've said, breaking the cycle. Not having a legacy doesn't mean you can't be great. And I think that speaks to, especially a younger audience that says you don't need to come from greatness to do great things. And she's very much a Force child. The Force has willed that she be put on this path and bring balance to the Force. So I think that can...
It's a different take on the midichlorians. It's a different take from the midichlorians like Lucas had. It takes away, like you said, that legacy that I was born to do this, kind of like that religious aspect of it, and made it so that the Force, and like Yoda was telling him, the Force is everywhere, or the Force, or Luke was telling her, it's in everything.
It is, but midichlorians I've always seen as a biological thing that it has to be put into a virgin woman, and then you have your Force child. She was born, and as she grew up, the Force had brought her onto this path. That is more mystical than I think midichlorians is what you're trying to say. So
I heard to add to what you said, Dan. I heard a podcast, and I want to say, oh man, it was a Star Wars podcast, and I can't remember the name of it. And I know where they're getting at, and I don't know. For me, it's more like I don't like that. But anyways, he was saying how you don't have to be somebody to be how did they say it, man? It's like you can be nobody to be somebody, basically, right? So you don't have to be a Luke Skywalker descendant, or you gotta be a Kenobi descendant. You could just be anybody to be somebody and to save the galaxy or what have you. But I guess my whole problem with that is, and I understand that part. I get it, right? Because even in real life, you can be nobody and be somebody, right?
Exactly.
But the part that I don't like about it is if that's the case, we should know her last name. You know what I mean? It's like
I feel like that's a very Disney thing, though, right? If you think about it, because Disney reaches out to the younger crowd, and they're all about communal vibe, and I think that's what they're trying to bring with this Star Wars, as opposed to what Lucas had, because I think this trilogy for Lucas was supposed to be about Solo's kids and Luke's kids,
right.
And
so
I'm sorry?
I was saying if Luke has kids.
No. If you read the books, the canon books, that's what it was supposed to be about. But they just said, hey, forget that. We're not doing that.
Well,
this is Disney.
Let me ask you a question. Would you have thought about these two movies differently if Luke's Leia and Han, when Chewie, or even just Luke, Leia, and Han weren't in the movie? Like, it was hard to try to tie their stories that we've learned and loved all these years, try to tie them in with new characters. And that's a really hard thing to do. And, most of my gripes are really about how they used Leia and how they used Luke in the new movies.
We haven't even talked about those.
Yeah, it's not even about like, I like Rey and I like Finn and I like Poe. I think they're great characters. I think they're going to be great characters. But I think this movie, instead of kind of doing a U-turn or like a 180 or whatever, it should have finished out the story of Luke and Leia in a better way, and then introduced new characters like Rose and all that in the 9th movie.
Right.
Like, I think they try to quickly just kind of tie up loose storylines from the last movie and go, okay, this is this, and this. Okay, now the story's changing right now. That's how I felt like this movie
they
was.
didn't, Ray, Finn, and Poe's roles in this movie weren't that huge. I mean, they weren't. It wasn't anything spectacular. It was it was a letdown as well.
What you think, Dan?
What was the question? I kind of got off track.
Like, what do you think the character development was in terms of like the new characters? How were they utilized in this film? Because we think they didn't have that much screen time.
Like regarding like ending arcs, like people dying, for instance, Luke and stuff. I don't think Luke's story's over. I know that sounds crazy as much as he's gone, but he's a Force ghost now. And while I do, it is sad that Luke died, I didn't feel as sad or didn't feel as emotional when I saw Han die in The Force Awakens. So I felt they concluded Luke's story in an appropriate way. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but for me, he was at peace with the Force and stuff like that, and he had his place in basically making sure Rey and the rebellion survived. So
that was a deceiving scene too, though. When he was in a pass, they showed the suns. I overlooked the suns for some reason. Like I was looking at the sun and it had like a spot in it, and I'm like, why
I thought that was
a
ship. I was super.
I was like,
a ship or something.
And then I reread something where they're going over it and they're like, oh, there was two suns like in A New Hope, and I'm like, oh, okay, but they should have made that shot a little bit clearer because it was kind of deceiving.
Yeah.
Let me talk since we're talking about Luke. Let me just say something about Luke, man. Prior to The Force Awakens, we hadn't seen Luke since Return of the Jedi, right? And we got to get a glimpse of him in The Force Awakens. And after I saw him in that movie, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait for him in Episode 8. Yeah. And what I wanted to see Luke in this movie, to be quite honest with you, man, is I wanted him to kick some butt. And what I mean by that is, yes, he went on the island and he went there to die, basically. He didn't want to be bothered or what have you. But the only reason I say that is because, you get that tease at the end of The Force Awakens, man, and all I'm thinking is this guy is going to kick some butt with a lightsaber in Episode 8. And, he's on the island. I wanted more training with him and Rey. That's one thing. And then when we got to see him at the end, I actually thought it was going to be a lightsaber battle. And I actually wanted that, man. I mean, I know why they did that, but I actually wanted that. And we didn't get to see that. And I felt like, oh, man, all that. He may not be gone. He may be back in Episode 9.
No, but see that.
See that, man.
But see, Ilario, that's my point with Luke. We expected, I mean, you think about it. Luke's how old? 60-something years old in this movie?
Right.
And we want him to be a badass and to do, I mean.
Obi-Wan, bro.
But he can be, man.
Obi-Wan was badass.
He can be. He can be. Go back and look at those films. He wasn't really a 60-year-old. No. Go back and look at those films. No.
He was a smooth badass. He wasn't like, oh, I'm wielding my lightsaber, but like he was,
Look,
my
Dave,
point
I'm 40.
The training scene. I know, me too, my friend. So look, but look back at Empire Strikes Back. Look at the training scene with Yoda and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think that took? Like in time wise, like how long was that training?
Like few days.
and then when the Return of the Jedi starts, he's a Jedi already. He walked into Jabba's palace a Jedi. So when we keep doing, you know what I'm saying? We keep saying these things. I wish the training scenes was longer. I wish Luke was a badass. But if you look back at the movies we fell in love with, that wasn't the case.
Right.
There's only so much time you can put or things put. That's why I said I would have rather seen all new characters in the movie and continue. And Luke should have died in the first one, and Leia should have died in the first one.
Yeah. Hey, before we, did you want to say something else, Dave? I'm sorry, man.
No.
Okay. Before we move on to Leia, and since we're still talking about Luke and the island, did we really need to see the milking of that creature?
The milking scene? Yeah, that
Well,
was
you needed to know where the
unnecessary.
blue milk. That's a play on the first movie. That's the blue milk.
Listen,
Yeah.
I mean,
listen, man, that was not even.
It was a play on it,
necessary,
dude, but honestly, it was just unnecessary.
unnecessary,
Like,
man. It's like we're fans really wanting to know how this guy ate on the.
That was fan service, nothing else. That's
I know, man, but
I
I'm
don't even
like,
think that was
come on.
fan service, man. I don't know what that was.
All right,
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
before we move on, let's talk about these porgs, man. So my daughter here, of course, is a huge fan of these little creatures, man. And I look, you see that?
wait, let's see.
You see her shirt?
No,
It's
no,
a
I don't
fashion
see.
statement.
It's a porg on their shirt, man. Can you see it?
No.
Right here.
Really? Why can't you
Oh,
see it?
now
I
I
can see
can.
it.
Oh,
Okay.
because I'm not in widescreen.
But
Here we
but
go.
I
So-
bought it for her because she likes porgs, right? But anyways, man, these porgs, man. After the second viewing, I kept looking around the screen and I saw so many freaking porgs, man. And I'm like, there's another one. There's another one. I'm like, oh, geez.
It didn't bother me, man.
It
Yeah,
bothered,
it really
it bothered
didn't bother
me,
me.
man. It was just, I'm like, I think they overdid it with porgs, man.
I
It wasn't that bad.
disagree.
It wasn't that bad.
You
The
like
whole
the
fishing scene. The whole
Compared-
fishing scene could have been left out. The whole
Yeah.
spearing in the
Yeah,
air,
that was just
flying through the air.
unnecessary.
Come on, man.
Dan, did you like the porgs, man?
Whether I liked them, no. Like, I didn't think they were annoying. I thought they had their place, and
Yeah.
you know, they're cute, they're adorable, and you know, it was, you know, left a few interesting, funny moments how they were burrowing into the Millennium Falcon, and
Right.
you know,
And Chewie's getting pissed.
yeah, it was an interest for a character like Chewie. We can never understand unless someone's translating for him. The interaction between him and the porgs was, you know, something kind of adorable.
Yeah.
So
What about you, Nelson? Did you like the porgs, man?
It didn't bother me, bro. I thought it wasn't to bother me, but I actually laughed when Chewie was trying to fly the ship, and they were like all over the place, touching stuff, like, you know. So
You know,
I can't really say.
like you said, Nelson. I know why they did it. They did it for the kids. I just think they overdid it, but that's just me.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait,
What?
about my portrait.
Oh, wait, hold on, man. She wants to show you guys
Here's my
something.
portrait.
Can you see that?
adorable.
It's just like your dad.
Look at that. All right,
Wow.
so hey, so let's switch over and talk about Leia real quick, man. So the second viewing, you know, I said to myself, let me give it a chance. Let me just sit down and watch it. And listen, hold on, I'm about to tell you something, man. The beginning of the movie, you know, we get to hear Poe and General Hux go back and forth. You know, can you hear me? Or I'm holding for Hux. I'm like, okay, it's not that funny, but whatever, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give it a chance. When we got to the part with Leia and her ship gets blown up, and you know she's flying, right? Or she's like floating in the air.
Mary Poppins.
Dude, at that point, when she starts moving and flying back, I'm like, no, I can't, man. I can't. It's just, I can't, man. I can't. I was trying to like it, man, and I'm like, when I saw that, I'm like, why did they have to do that?
She is the best.
You know what? I'll be honest with you, man. This is the problem I have with it. She's still alive at the end of the movie. What are they gonna do with the next movie, right? The way I would have done this movie is when she got blown up and she was flying off into space, I would have left it at that, and I would have continued on with the movie.
You know, the problem with that is
That's
that
my
they
thought,
didn't
yeah.
know she was gonna die. Like, so, you know, but I think if they would have known something was going on with her, they would have probably said, hey, this is the perfect time to just call it a day, you know?
My idea for that part that I think would have been great is if she gets blown out of the ship, right? And two things either happen. One, Luke feels that she's in danger, and he's the one that uses the Force telepathy, you know, and pushes her back in the ship to safety.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done it, filmed it a different way.
Right.
Or she does have the Force, and she reverses everything and puts back Akbar and everybody back on the ship, and the ship goes back together again.
I don't know about all that, man.
Like Humpty Dumpty, bro?
Well, look what we were left with, though.
Hey,
Well,
rest
hold
in
on,
peace.
hold on.
Hey, hold on.
Even better, how am I cut you
Rest
off?
in peace, General Akbar.
It's a
Hey,
trap.
man, he's a fan favorite, man. I love General Akbar.
How do you have no
Admiral.
air
Admiral.
pressure?
Whoa.
Admiral, that's what I meant. General. Admiral, my bad.
No air pressure in space.
I know. What
When they
did
open
you
that door.
think, Dan?
Yeah, bad scene overall. It looked really fake. It looked weird, and the only explanation I found for it, because you know, I tried to make sense of it in my mind after it happened. It was a very bizarre scene. She wasn't. I think she was like unconsciously doing that. Like, I don't feel like she actively just woke up and said, "Let me use the Force to get back to the ship." I think the Force itself willed her to return to the ship and live, because she was going to be the last Skywalker. She is the last Skywalker that we know of in existence after this movie. So, it just poorly. It was a poorly
seen
done
the movie once, right, Dan?
I've seen it once, yes. And
I tell you what, the
first
second
time
viewing,
it was bad.
The second viewing, I'm looking at it, and I'm just looking at my daughter, and I'm like, it just looks weird, man. I'm like,
yeah.
And she was supposed to have a big role in episode 9, which now I don't know how that's going to work.
Right. Yeah.
What they're going to do like they did with this movie, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
They're like, oh, well, she died on the way over to this planet. Oh, well, keep on going.
Right. She didn't take her heart medicine pills, and she died.
Yeah, exactly.
Heart medicine pills. Oh, man. What else, man? I know I'm missing a few other stuff, man.
There's a ton of stuff. Oh,
yeah,
my
the
God.
casino.
Well, okay.
The casino
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Casino
Cancel
scene.
bite. Let's talk about that. Go ahead, Nelson. You brought it up.
What a complete waste of 30 minutes. That's all I got to say, dude.
All right. Go ahead, Dan. You're next.
Completely. I agree.
I got nothing to say about that.
I actually... I was watching it, in the theater, and I think like during the scene right after they hopped on the back of those animals and they started like going through like the city and stuff, I checked the time. I'm like, how much longer is this movie? And they're riding on these things, these horse creatures or whatever in the fields. And I turned to my dad and I asked, "Is this Star Wars anymore?"
Yes.
And
that's what
I enjoyed
said.
a lot of the movie, but so much of the time in that entire casino planet scene could have been used to expand and answer more questions.
Yeah.
What a waste of time. What a waste.
Well,
Hey, what do you think?
Again, I'm going to rewrite this scene, and I already told my brother this. So, right? So I'm okay with the plan. I'm okay with the scene of them going to the casino. I'm okay with it because it kind of gave off the whole Tatooine Cantina vibe a little bit, like they've been doing in every movie. But
you're covering your face.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. But what would have been better is they're looking for this. What was he? The hacker? What was he called again?
DJ. It's by Del Toro. Something.
DJ.
The
Codebreaker, right?
Yeah.
So they're searching
DJ,
for him.
which means don't join.
Yeah, right.
No, that's what it means. I read it. That's what it means.
Okay.
So they're looking for this guy, right? They're looking around the casino, and they spot this guy, but you only see the back of him, and he's at one of the casino tables, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking at him, and they feel something weird, so they keep staring at him. He turns around, and it's Billy D. Williams.
Oh my God!
It's Lando.
Yes.
It's Lando in the casino, and Lando's the one that helps them.
And how old is Lando, man?
Lando's the same age as Han, man. He's in his 60s. But he knows people. But remember, he wasn't about action. He was about knowing people, and he was very intelligent. And getting them to leave Cloud City. So he could have been the perfect person to help them, and it would have been brought back a character that everybody was asking for. But again, it was another, I don't care. I'm doing it my way. I don't care if you like it.
Right.
And that's what
You don't think that would have been reaching too much into Empire doing that?
No.
Because they're already reaching an Empire at the end.
DJ and that whole casino scene is a lot like, or at least how his arc plays out, he's a lot like Lando. He ends up betraying them and giving in to greed or whatever, like in The Empire Strikes Back. So,
and he would have been a better character to do that.
Exactly.
But because he was also in Guardians of the Galaxy as the Collector, it was almost the same, same character.
Dude is in every movie, man.
And I will help you. Like, what was that?
Hey, you know what I think about that whole scene too, man? I think it was unnecessary. I would have done away with that scene and done more. I would have dedicated that maybe, what was it, 30 minutes, maybe 25 minutes or what have you, and done more character story, I guess. Expand on Leader Snoke. That's what I would have done. But is it just me, man? I like the cantina. I liked Maz Kanat's castle in The Force Awakens. But do they really have to have a cantina like place in every Star Wars movie, man? Or is it just me?
Well, it's keeping.
Continuity.
I mean, it's keeping a continuity. It's keeping. You know, like I don't even know. Is it? Did you hear? I have a bad feeling about this. Was that in this movie?
I don't remember.
What?
Did they say that? I have a bad feeling about this.
No, I don't think they said that in this movie.
So this is the first movie they've never done that.
I think you're right.
I think they did, and we may not have noticed. I've watched other podcast review stuff, and I think they said it once in the movie.
Really? I missed it, man. Huh.
There's a lot that happens in this movie, so
right.
Probably got washed away with a lot of poor jokes.
So this is the longest Star Wars movie, right?
Yeah, almost 3 hours, man.
But I don't know why. That's the thing. Look, I understand if we're watching Avengers or whatever, but all this fluff, it's like filled. It's like a bag of air. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't need all that. You know what I'm saying? It could have been so much simpler and better.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that whole Canto bite scene, man. I didn't like it a whole lot.
I mean, it could have been done better. Shorter
for sure.
There's just a lot of. It just feels like if you're a musician, right? You're a band and you're going to record an album, and you have like 8 different producers working on the album, and every single song just sounds different, but it's like smashed together to make it sound cohesive. That's how I felt some of this movie was. It was like different storylines that they just smushed everything together, and who cared about continuing stories from the last movie? Just let's tie it all up. Let's fit it together. I mean, look at the deleted scenes. 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours?
Like 3.5 hours. The first cut of the movie was.
I didn't know that.
It's 3.5 hours, and like you said, with that Canto bite scene was even longer, and it had like a scene where they're riding the elephant thing, and it crashes through a porta potty, and there's a guy in there with his underwear with a towel. I'm like, really, man?
No way.
I sent you the link.
That's incredible.
That's incredible.
It's funny. The movie that doesn't need to be extended is extended, and then the movie that didn't have the 3-hour thing, Justice League, which needed to be longer, they didn't do it. I don't know if that's a corporate thing or what, man. It's crazy.
Wow, that's something, man. Hey, what's this chick's name with the purple hair, man? What was her name?
Holdo.
Laura Dern.
Vice Admiral Holdo.
Yeah.
She was Jurassic Park.
Yeah, you're right. I thought she was okay, man. I did like the way she took down that destroyer, man.
Down.
That whole scene was.
She didn't have to do it. She didn't have to do that.
I know.
Leia could have forced the ship in there.
All it should do was tell them what's going on, like what's the plan, and she wasn't saying anything.
But those ships don't have like remote autopilot. My God, this is set in the future.
Yeah,
like
yeah, but it's all analog. If you notice that all the equipment's analog, it's not digital.
But,
hey,
it's a very Star Wars-esque thing, analog.
Yeah.
Hey, can you guys explain to me why there was no gravity when them bombs fell, man?
Oh, Danny will tell you. Hold on.
Come on, Danny.
I can't explain the gravity, but I honestly, whether you didn't like the joke or not, I thought that whole opening scene, I loved the opening scene, and I got really excited for the rest of this film. Mm-hmm. The bombers, that's something Star Wars has done for a while. They have a very World War II-esque like feel to them, that they have a payload, they have bombardiers, they have gunners, and those bombs had one ship there was able to devastate not the entire dreadnought, but a portion of the dreadnought they needed to neutralize. And I think those explosives needed to be carried. They couldn't be shot by a torpedo or something. I mean, that's lore-wise, and I had to read up on that myself. But I thought it was a very interesting new vehicle or fighter spaceship. And the whole scene with her sister struggling to press the switch to drop the bombs, I think that was an interesting.
That was a pretty good scene.
But there's another. But that's another thing where she's laying there. The ship is busted open. Space, the vacuum of space is around her, and she's looking down, and she's not dying. I mean, wow.
The only thing
they have like shields or something like.
Yeah. The only thing to think of is the dreadnought has some kind of like atmosphere on the surface, and that's how the bombs fell, because that didn't make any sense to me, dude. You know,
it's a sci-fi movie. It's a sci-fi movie.
I know. That's the bad part. You gotta go in that realm. What's up, Poe?
Oh my God!
Hey there, quit the mom jokes.
That's what I should have worn in the theater.
Let's go, man.
Oh my god.
I'm surprised that fits you.
Hey, it's pretty cool, bro. Look at that.
You skateboard with that?
No, man, I should actually. But yeah, I think the only problem I had with that whole scene, man, was how they just dropped and there was no gravity whatsoever. It was cool though. It was cool.
I don't know, but it's a contradictory to what happens with Leia. Then Leia's in space, she's floating. It's like, dude, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I know it's sci-fi. I know it's not supposed to be real, but it kind of like your brain tells you, what is this? What is that? You know?
Right.
I don't know.
What did you guys think about the battle at the end, man? I can't remember the name of that planet. The salty planet.
Salty planet.
Salty planet. I don't remember.
That's how you were gonna walk out of the theater.
You know what it reminded me of? You know what it reminded me a lot of, that red? It reminded me of Star Trek. Do you remember that Star Trek movie in the beginning where the ground was red? Do you remember Danny? Danny, the Star Trek fan.
Not
It was
that
the
much.
last.
I don't remember
It was the last. It was the one where they ran through the field and they jumped off the cliff in the beginning of the movie. They were running away from the aliens, and all the ground was red. It reminded me of that. It reminded me of something that it was telling you that it was on a different planet. And Star Wars was kind of always kind of good at Crate, right? They were kind of good at doing that, letting you know, like Hoth, ice, Tatooine was, but I think this movie with that red, it made you really think like, wow, they're somewhere completely on an alien planet.
No,
I mean,
like
abandoned Rebel base. Clearly, the rebels didn't want to use it ever again. It was useless.
It wasn't a bad. That whole part wasn't that bad. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was very together compared to the jumbled mess kind of in the middle of the movie. That's what I heard a lot of people talking about.
Yeah.
What I enjoyed in that whole scene, man, is seeing the Millennium Falcon in action, man.
Yeah.
When the original music played, when it was going through like that mine or something, that I had a smile. Like,
yeah, I turned around and told my daughter, man, the Millennium Falcon in action, man, it's awesome, man. I had watched the Force Awakens like 2 days before I went to see it the first time, The Last Jedi. And, the Force Awakens has that really cool sequence, right, with the Millennium Falcon and the TIE fighters following it. But and this one at the end, that was really cool, man. I enjoyed it a lot.
I got a question for you, Illyrio.
Yeah.
Episode 9, J.J. Abrams decides to destroy the Millennium Falcon. Would you care?
Do I have a problem with it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Think about that, dude.
That ship's a piece of junk. Come on.
A piece of junk. It is a piece of junk.
It is a piece of junk, but that piece of junk is it's almost
I think
legacy.
they need to bury Han Solo in it.
I would have a problem if you told me Rian Johnson was going to do it.
Well, it wouldn't have mattered if he did it. He'd just say, "Oh, don't worry about that. That ship, A wing, Y wing, X. It doesn't matter. That ship is meaningless."
Right. But yeah, I did enjoy that, man. I'm trying to think what else, man.
What I didn't like is, and it really got like, it was like the last straw for me.
Okay.
When Kylo is shooting at Luke with the AT, the newer ships.
About to say yes.
And he does the
shoulder
shoulder flick. Come on, man!
Hold on. Did you catch that? It was a younger version of him.
Yeah, it was a younger version of him. Yeah.
In the theater, did you catch that though? In the theater.
Well, I thought like, how did he dye his beard? But I mean, he milks animals for blue milk. Maybe he dyed his beard with something and he got his hair cut.
After he did that, he should have done this. I had a problem with that as well. I'm like, come on, man.
Jedis don't do that.
But did you pick that up though, Illyrio?
Yeah, he was.
What'd you say, Nelson?
Did you pick up that he was younger in those two with Leia and when he went outside? Did you pick up that he was younger?
I didn't pick up on that, but when he was with Leia, he was the hologram, correct?
Yes,
he was projecting himself.
Right. Okay. And you know what? I didn't catch it the first viewing. It caught me off guard. I didn't see it that he was a hologram until he disappeared. Did you guys catch that on?
Yeah, I mean, I caught him looking young, but I thought he just cleaned himself up and came to kick ass. I guess
Right.
he was just handed Han's dice from his car from the Millennium Falcon, and and I didn't even know what that was. I had to go back and look and see what that was. Those
that
little
is in the
gold
original
dice.
films.
It's in the original film, and I never saw it.
Cockpit.
But again, it's like, but why make something so obscure like relevant again? Like, of all the things you could have done, why those little dice? It meant nothing to me.
What did that mean, anyways? What now?
And it disappeared in Kylo's hands too. So was that a projection as well? That's kind of confusing to me.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
What disappeared? One more time. Sorry.
So what? Yeah, I'm confused.
The gold dice. The gold. They used to hang in Millennium Falcon, like on the top. It used to hang.
I don't remember that in the movie. Do you?
And Luke grabbed
Luke
it.
hands it to
or maybe it's always been in the Millennium Falcon and we never picked up on it.
But why subtle things like that? Like, that's what I mean. Like, why would you bring something like that in? And then the lightsaber, you let it get tossed, and I guess she gets it, but whatever.
Like,
unreal, man.
Hey, so good lightsaber.
Yeah, I don't need it anymore.
Honestly, I don't know the whole dice thing. I didn't really get that unless that was something that we never picked up on the other movies, which I don't recall. So,
well, I don't know. Did we lose Illyrio?
I'm here, man. Yeah, there you are. I don't understand, man. But all right. So
Illyrio, that helmet was actually off of an actual action figure. It just fits Illyrio's head.
Hey, I'm gonna put on my Stormtrooper helmet, man. I got 2 of them. So what else, man? I know we're missing a few other items we can talk about.
Oh, let's talk about Kylo's visions with Rey and speaking with Rey. What did you think about how they did that? Because I liked that. I liked how he can see her talking and she can see him talking. I liked that, how they did that.
It was interesting.
The whole put your shirt back on could have been left out. But
that could have been left out.
That was another scene killer for me.
I liked it as well, but I liked it even more that Supreme Leader Snoke was actually doing that.
So he was so powerful to be able to do that, but yet can't see the lightsaber killing him.
That doesn't make any sense, dude. I don't buy that one. I don't think he was doing that, honestly.
Yeah.
I think he knew about it, but he wasn't doing it.
Let me ask you a question. Do you remember back in Return of the Jedi, or I think it was Return of the Jedi, when Vader's standing there with Emperor Palpatine, and he's like, "My son is on that ship. I felt it," or something, and the Emperor says, "Funny, I did not." Do you remember that scene when he says that?
I think I can.
Like, Vader felt Luke, but the Emperor says, "Funny, I did not." Almost like he was blocking him from seeing that.
I don't remember that scene, man.
I wonder if Kylo was doing that to Snoke, blocking him from seeing what he was doing.
Ah, interesting.
Because if you go back and listen, Palpatine says that. He goes, "Funny, I have not." Like, I felt him on that ship, but I didn't feel it. So I wonder if he was doing that on purpose, like,
Right. Yeah, because like I said, though, after I saw it the second time and he said those 2 lines, that's when he got killed by Kylo. He says, yeah. I can read his mind and I know his intentions. And I'm like, dude, he's about to kill you.
Even you saw it.
Exactly. Oh, man. What else, man? What else you guys didn't like?
I mean,
how did you guys feel about Rose?
Oh, good one. Good question.
I thought she was a good actress, but I don't think that. Again, I felt nothing for her because there was no character development for her. I felt nothing for her, and again, what got me upset is that Rian Johnson and everyone even promoted how important that Rose was going to be to the movie. How important this character is you go back in interviews and watch how they almost lied to us on these interviews about what this movie was going to be about. They blatantly lied. They said, Rose was going to be a central figure to the rebellion, and nothing happened.
Well, she prevented a major character from killing himself. I mean,
but so what? But what does he do? What did he do? What was his? He could have actually done damage. I know some people think that he couldn't have done any damage with his vehicle into that gun.
I thought he was going to die, man.
I thought he was going to die too. But why would she risk the deaths of everybody in there to save him, to kiss him, give him a kiss, and He could have saved the rebellion. You don't know.
I thought that from a logical standpoint, but I think what she was trying to say, she said it to him after that. It was something along the lines of no more dead heroes, that this base was lost anyways. And, I thought, oh my gosh, she just doomed everyone at this base. But the reality is they were already escaping through the tunnels or whatever. And her message was that we don't need more dead heroes. Like Leia had said at the beginning, because they had lost so many in that bomber attack. So I felt that was important to developing her character and stuff like that. And we saw her character develop with her relation to her sister and her relation to her being, I guess, her family being like worked to death or having their minerals stolen by these corporate people on Canto Bight. So I personally, I don't see the disappointment with her character. I liked it. Sorry about interrupting.
No, it's fine. I was going to add that I didn't really care about her character, but I do want to say that I thought they did a good job with her character. She's not one of my favorite characters in this movie. I think she did great. I don't even know what other movies or shows this lady's been in, but for what she was given, I thought they did a pretty good job. And that's pretty much it. That's all for me. I mean, like I said, I didn't really care about her character, but I think she did a great job.
Look, she did okay, but at some scenes it felt out of place. Like she didn't belong in the movie. That was my vibe. Like she didn't belong there. It was like, why do we have this chick in here? It was like her scene was only to like block him from leaving. After that cut, we're never gonna see her again. It is what it is. But I felt like they like, oh, let's just bring her along for whatever, a love interest for Finn. It's like, dude, because the other thing that in Force Awakens they didn't follow through with, they made it seem like Finn and Rey were going to have something, and that they're like showing. They were showing. Well, they were going that route, but that was never going to happen. Yeah. And then it was like the director said, "No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. Bring another chick in." It's like everything that the fans wanted. They were like, "Nope, we're not doing that."
And I almost feel like they sprinkled little. We got your. We hear you, fans. Like with the whole R2 showing Luke Leia's original message, which I thought was like a nice throwback.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I like the fact that a Yoda was there, and Yoda was a puppet, and he wasn't CGI, and he was the Yoda from Empire Strikes Back that I fell in love with, that I loved, and the scene with the tree burning, and the whole conversation he had with Luke, I liked that whole scene right there. I thought that was good, and I think Danny, didn't you mention to me that some of the books you don't think were burned?
They're saying that they're on the Millennium Falcon.
They were in the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, maybe it was Nelson that said that. Yeah, that they were in a drawer or something in the Millennium Falcon.
I saw it the second time around, and I caught it the first viewing. They were in the Millennium Falcon.
Rey took them on her way out. So.
Yeah.
I was gonna also say, man, you guys remember the part with when Finn woke up? He had those tubes with water coming out.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck is that?
Well, that's kind of like the water thing from Empire Strikes Back when Luke gets from Hoth. And they put him in that water tank, and that was kind of a throwback to that, I guess.
Kind of.
But you see how much I have to stretch out and make up these subplots? Like, why do I have to do that? I've never ever had to do that with a Star Wars movie. It's like I'm trying to literally force myself to like this movie.
I wouldn't say that's like forcing. There is like pulling straws, trying to make up stuff. But I felt that this movie made you think a lot about throwbacks to the past and what the future of Star Wars is, whether people like it or not. And I really enjoyed that. It made me think. Where The Force Awakens, I kind of just sat there and watched new characters, kind of reveal themselves. And, I didn't feel like The Force Awakens challenged any, and I'm not saying just challenging it is good. I'm saying that taking risks, which a lot of failings happen in this movie with Canto Bight, with the pacing, stuff like that. But I felt a lot of the risks were worth taking, and I'd really like to see where this movie takes the rest of the Star Wars universe.
Well,
do you think it's in it? Yeah. Okay, it's already at 635 million. Do you think that the fan backlash was going to have any effect on sales? People that usually go see it 2 or 3 times.
I don't think it's going to have a big bite. I mean, the fans like us, the older fans, we really don't spend a lot on merchandise compared to like the younger fans. But you got to remember too, 635 million is nothing compared to what they spent on advertising for this movie and marketing.
Yep.
That's where they keep saying that, oh, you know, they made this amount of money. But this movie has been, I mean, Star Wars, nothing beats the advertising, even Marvel, than Star Wars in terms of just advertising with I mean, there's Star Wars on everything, toilet paper, toothbrushes. I mean, it's on everything. And I don't think it's going to hurt it's a juggernaut, man. I mean,
so you think it's going to be $1 billion movie?
I think it'll be $1 billion movie. Yeah, because you know why? Because people like us, and just like Ilario did today, he didn't like the movie when he saw it again, so he thought to go see it again the second time in IMAX and spend even more money. And we're all going to do that. We're all going to do that. We're going to talk how much we didn't like this movie, but yet we're going to go back and see it. And
honestly, I don't think I'm going to do that, but I'll buy the Blu-ray.
But it was just it's just like the Phantom Menace. I didn't like the Phantom Menace, but you know what? I've watched it a bunch of times because it's just part of the Star Wars story. And as a fan, you have to accept mediocrity sometimes and just say, this is what it is. There's no way to change it, and just accept it for what it is. And that's kind of how I'm going at it.
I don't accept mediocrity, man.
Yeah, I got a funny one for you, dude. I went to go take the wife to go see The Last Jedi or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, what's up with the guy with the red and white face?" And I'm like, "Red and white face." Me and my son were looking at each other like, "Who the hell are you talking about?" And she was talking about what's his face? Sorry,
Darth Maul?
Darth Maul.
Oh,
that was like years ago.
No, for me, to piggyback from you, Dave. For me, it actually did kind of change my spending habits on this movie, because The Force Awakens, I want to say I saw it about 6 or 7 times in the theaters. Rogue One, 6, 7 times. I spent a lot of money in those movies, man, at the theater, and I bought the Blu-ray. But with this one, I went to see it one more time. I wanted to see it in the IMAX, and I'm gonna see it again whenever it comes out on Blu-ray. I'm not gonna go see it again in theaters. Like I said, man, at the beginning of the review here, I enjoy some parts of the movie. It's just that overall, my expectations is I wanted answers to many questions from The Force Awakens, and I didn't get them, and that's why I kind of I'm like halfway, man. Some parts I enjoyed, some parts were okay, other parts were like, eh. That's why I'm in the middle, man. 5 out of 10, you know.
Do you think J.J. Abrams has a plan for all this stuff that we're talking about right now?
I think he does, man, because I enjoyed The Force Awakens. After that movie came out, I thought he did a great job. And knowing
he executive produced, so
this movie,
looking at all the parts that are being made.
Right, and so I'm looking forward to his new one. But I'll tell you this, man. After watching this one, I understand where fans love this movie. I don't understand the part where I've read and heard on podcasts where this is the best Star Wars movie of all time. I'm telling you, and this was a Star Wars podcast, and I don't remember the name of it. But anyways, I'm like, what? Anyways.
Okay. What about the next trilogy that this guy's directing?
Yeah, hold on, I'm gonna get to that. But you know, I don't. You know, everybody's entitled to their opinions, right? You know, and some people that love it, then that's great. You know, I got my opinion. I enjoyed some of it, but to me, of course, it's not the best Star Wars. And let's talk about this real quick, man, since before we move on. But to me, it's not the best Star Wars movie. I actually put this movie my second least favorite movie out of all of them. The first least favorite one being The Phantom Menace. And that was my initial ranking after watching it the first time. What about you guys, man? The Force Awakens, let's just compare the first 3 that just came out, right? I'd say Rogue One, The Force Awakens, and then this one, if we're just comparing the first 3 that just came out. What about you guys? Dan, we'll start off with you, Dan.
Okay. I have a little difficult. You know, I grew up with the prequels, but I understand where people come from when they put them close to the bottom. If I had to start from like my favorite Star Wars movie of all time, I'd probably say Empire, like a lot of people.
Okay.
And I felt that improved my score with this movie a lot because it had a lot of throwbacks, and these 2 movies, if you watch them back to back, there's a lot of interesting elements that they both share. And I definitely second, I'd say New Hope, Third, I'd probably say Revenge of the Sith, and then Return of the Jedi. Probably Force Awakens next. And then after that, I'd say Attack of the Clones, or not. Oh wait, did I not even put Last Jedi? I'd probably rank Last Jedi out of all the films, maybe third or fourth. I don't want to have like a 9 or 8 film list, 9 film list if you include Rogue One. So I'd say about 3 or 4 in my ranking.
What about you, Nelson? Where did you? Let's just compare it to the
last 3.
Rogue One and The Force Awakens. Give them in order.
Okay.
Your favorite ones.
Okay, Rogue One I like. So go Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, but that's hard, man, because I'm gonna put this movie where
I'm making a list right now. I think we should.
No. I'm talking about. Hold on. We'll give our ranking for all the movies. I have my ranking already for overall. We're talking about 9 total movies, but I'm talking about rank The Last Jedi when looking at Rogue One and The Force Awakens first. Where would you rank them?
It's on the bottom of the list.
Okay, so you do Rogue One, The Force Awakens, and
I'm gonna put that in my Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith corner, and I don't really like those movies.
Okay, what about you, Dave?
As much as I like Rogue One, I really like Rogue One. It's just a different Star Wars movie, so it's really hard to compare it to The Force Awakens. But I would probably say The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and Last Jedi.
Okay. Dave, you have your total ranking of all movies, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so here's mine. I don't know if you have yours, Nelson. I don't know if you have time to put
it. I didn't put time into that. Sorry.
So here's mine real quick, guys. And by no means do I – and it was kind of hard to rank them just because, like Dan said, right, the Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope. There's just some classics, man, right? But the reason I rank these up to me, I'll give you my number 1 movie so far, man, is Rogue One, just because it's different. And overall, from start to finish, I just enjoyed it, and it's just a beautiful movie, man. And I like how it sets up for A New Hope, you know. But my number 1 movie is Rogue One. After that is The Force Awakens. Number 3 is The Empire Strikes Back. Number 4 is Return of the Jedi. Number 5 is A New Hope. Then number 6 is Revenge of the Sith. 7 is Attack of the Clones. The Last Jedi, and then The Phantom Menace. What is yours, Dave?
Mine's Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, Clones, Force Awakens, Rogue One, Phantom Menace, and Last Jedi.
Oh, man, you like Jar Jar Binks better.
And you know why I liked it? Because it answered questions that it set me up for. And that's why I liked it. It wasn't a tease to me. It answered my questions.
Right. What about you?
I got mine. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. It's a little rough. Nothing's concrete. So
there you go.
Empire. This is ranking top to bottom.
Okay.
Empire, A New Hope, The Last Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, Rogue One, The Force Awakens, Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace.
Okay.
So Last Jedi third, huh?
Third to last. Yes.
Oh, third to last. I thought that was like the third movie. You said Return of the Jedi. You meant Return of the Jedi, not Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
That's the third one. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, man. When you look at your list, you're like, wait, hold on, let me see.
Yeah.
What about you, Nelson?
I think I'm missing one here. I did this real quick while you guys were
Pencils down, Nelson. Test is over.
Sorry. Empire, New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Attack of the Clones, Rogue One. What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something.
The Phantom Menace?
No, the Phantom Menace is here.
Revenge of the Sith.
I have that.
You should have 9 total.
I only have 8.
That means you haven't seen a Star Wars movie.
No, dude, I only have 8.
No wonder it doesn't make sense.
Okay, so look, you're going to tell me, and maybe I'll redo it.
Nelson's not a fan.
No, dude, I literally just sat down and wrote it in 2 seconds. Rogue One, Last Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, and then Phantom. What am I missing?
That's 4 movies.
That's the bottom 4. What am I missing?
We wanted your whole list, Nelson.
I said
There's
Empire.
9 Star Wars movies out. So.
Empire, New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Attack of the Clones, Rogue One, Last Jedi, Revenge of the Sith.
The Force Awakens,
Phantom.
man.
The Force Awakens. There you go. I'm gonna put Force Awakens.
Nelson, you're getting old, bro.
Dude, I literally just sat down and wrote it.
You don't make any sense, bro.
I'm gonna put Force Awakens after Rogue One.
So what's interesting, really quick, before we go on real quick. So what's your first 3 movies, Nelson?
Empire, New Hope, and Return.
And yours, Illyrio?
Rogue One, Force Awakens, and the Empire.
And yours, Danny?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The first 3?
First 3, Empire, A New Hope, and Last Jedi.
So it's interesting because Nelson and I pretty much have the same 3 movies being the best ones, the first 3 movies, because we grew up on that, and so did you, Illyrio. But yours is kind of similar to Danny's list, Illyrio.
Yeah, I got A New Hope. After The Empire Strikes Back, I got Return of the Jedi and A New Hope. And it was so hard, man, because I love A New Hope. I love Return of the Jedi, and I love The Empire Strikes Back. But I think for me, the reason I put Rogue One at number 1 is because after watching it so many times, it's a different Star Wars movie, right? And think about this for a second, man. We got to see Darth Vader kick some ass.
Yeah.
You know, and that whole scene, man, that whole scene, you're like, holy shit, that's awesome. And I think, and it's just a beautiful movie. And I think what I also like about it is you got to meet some new characters, and these characters were killed off at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And they died, in my opinion. They had some good deaths. You know what I mean?
They were heroes. They were true heroes.
Exactly.
And they didn't have any powers. They weren't Jedis.
Right. And I thought it was a beautiful movie, man, and I enjoy it. I could watch that movie over and over.
What was the order that this guy, the Chinese or whatever guy who kept on saying the Force is with me? What was the order? What was the order that he was like following? Because there's actual background story to that whole thing. When he's like, "Oh, the Force is with me" or whatever. I'm the Force. There's some kind of religion or something behind that, and they even referenced it.
Well, he was all about the Kyber crystals. I mean, they were the protectors of that.
No. It was like a religion as well. Damn, I can't remember. I would have to look it up.
Yeah, you got me on that one, Nelson.
But that guy, there's an actual religion. They believe in the Jedi and all that stuff, but they themselves have no powers. They want to have powers.
Huh? Interesting. But
I have to watch that in reverse.
And you guys are Star Wars fans? Okay.
I think Nelson's trying to make up for the 4 movies he had listed.
No, man. Hey, honestly, I literally sat down and wrote them real quick.
Hey, man, I've had too much of monkey shoulder, man.
Hey, I'm surprised nobody had the Star Wars Christmas special listed in their top.
I know, right? Christmas special.
I tried to sit through that.
Hey, before we, I think we're almost at the end of the show, but before we move on, we didn't even talk about the X-Wing, man, Luke's X-Wing that was underwater.
Yeah.
Did you guys think that he was going to pick it up out of the water and fly out? I did too, man.
I thought he was going to make Rey lift it up like Yoda made him lift it up out of the water.
Dude, that would have
been
awesome.
Empire. See,
that would have been good training, man.
Why are us just the po folks over here? Why are we coming up with these amazing things and these people are getting paid millions to write this, man? Come on, man.
That would have been a great scene for sure. I called that as soon as I saw that. I wanted to see that happen. But
and it's like they show it and it's a tease, and as a fan you enjoy it and you see it, but then they didn't even use it. I'm like, I thought he was going to pick it up. I thought when Rey left, I thought he was actually going to pick it up and fly out.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome, man.
Well, let me ask you, do you think, because Abrams is doing the next movie, do you think the reaction to this movie is going to have any effect on the script for the next movie, or they're just going to say, you know what, it is what it is. It's already been written. It's already being filmed, because it's already being filmed.
I don't know.
I'll be honest with you. This is what I think, man. Like I said, The Force Awakens is not perfect, but I think J.J. Abrams, I'm curious to find out what J.J. Abrams thinks about this movie. I wish I could find out.
He's
but
not
I
going to
think
say
J.J.
anything.
Abrams doesn't have to do anything because he got this, man. I really do.
No, hold on. This is the thing, though. Remember, this guy, whatever his name is, I forgot this. He was there doing what J.J. Abrams was doing with this movie. He was executive producing and saying, hey, you can't do this because I need this for my movie. So he was seeing all the changes, and he, I don't know if he already has his parts written, but I don't think it was just like, hey, go do it, whatever you're going to do. I'm just going to figure it out after. I'm pretty sure he was like, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. If you want to kill these people, go right ahead. It doesn't matter. So he had to oversee something. He can't just agree with everything.
But the directors didn't write the movie. The writers wrote the movie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like my favorite Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back. It happens to be the one that George Lucas didn't write.
Didn't do. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, I don't think the writers are the one that's in control, and I just think that's why Colin Trevorrow, who I think was the original director for 9, was forced out of there. Because he was probably wanting to do his own thing. It's like, look, this is the way it's going to be. The movies have already been set, and I really hope it's not going to be a cookie cutter, like Danny was saying. Force Awakens was a remake of A New Hope, and then Last Jedi was a remake of Empire Strikes Back, and I hope it's not like that, like a cookie cutter,
So don't get your hopes up.
I won't be surprised if it is, to be quite honest with you.
I have to kind of cut in there. And I think the thing I love the most about this movie is that as much as there were aspects that were very cookie cutter, as David was saying, this kind of breaks everything that, we think Star Wars to be. So it's trying to break away from that cookie cutter by saying, by killing off characters we had expectations of being, the master, like Supreme Leader Snoke being the master of everything going on, and how, the whole concept of the Force and Rey's parents not, you guys get that. That's what we've been talking about. And I think that kind of stuff, that those expectations kind of being squashed, as sad as it is, I think that prevents it from being cookie cutter. I think we're going to see a very interesting final episode to the Star Wars series.
It's not following the formula, the typical Star Wars formula, where there's the Emperor, there's the main guy, and then the guy who backs him up, and that all that. That's not there anymore. Which, that's good and bad. You're being brave, you're being bold, but at the same time, you're kind of, I don't know, you're playing with some weird.
It's almost like it's almost like that article I sent you guys that talked about, the Star Wars: The Last Jedi killed my childhood. And I think that was a good thing because, I think we got to we're trying to write the movie and I'm telling you, that's how Star Trek fans are. That's how Lord of the Rings fans are. That's how, I'm sure even Game of Thrones fans are. You get so much into it that you feel like you can write the stories better and be told better. And I just have to suck it up and say, listen, I'm 40 years old. I'm going to have to accept these are the new Star Wars movies and just kind of find something I like about them and just, try to hold on to that because my kids, I have 3. My 18-year-old loves Star Wars, and so are my 2 little ones, my 4-year-old and my 7-year-old. They love Star Wars, and I don't want to kill that for them by. You know what I mean? I try not to talk bad about it and try not to show my feelings about it because I don't want to ruin it for them because that might be their favorite. That might be their New Hope and their Empire Strikes Back. And I don't want to ruin that for them just because it wasn't written for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that makes sense. But let me ask you this. So basically what this movie's saying is that there's no more Jedi. What's going to come after this is totally different.
No more Jedi per se of fighting and lazy, but people that can use the Force. But
that's
people that use the Force. No, I don't think that. I think
the Jedi Order is gone.
Yeah, they're done. That's hence the name of the movie.
But Rey, in the sense, she is a Jedi. She has become a Jedi.
The older,
as in
the
a
older
good
generation.
Force user. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
The old sense of what it means to be Jedi is gone. because it was flawed. Like the puppet Yoda, you guys saw his kind of ghostly figure explained that, you know, it's, you're relying on the past for everything. That isn't the answer to everything that lies ahead. And sometimes, like I think Luke, why he was in such a very, you know, decrepit and angry and bitter and mood was a lot like Yoda. He thought, you know, maybe we don't need this. Maybe this cycle of fighting and good versus evil, this can be done away if we just do away with the Jedi.
Like how Yoda went to hide on Dagobah, he went to hide on the island just to.
He went to die there.
To die there, yeah.
They both did the same thing, pretty much.
Yeah.
But
even like Obi-Wan Kenobi too, because in the beginning of A New Hope, Obi-Wan's a hermit. Like he doesn't go out a lot. He's hiding, and you know, on a planet that he wasn't from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the same kind of tradition. Luke's doing it, and now you know.
Well, I think Obi-Wan was watching over Luke, though, right?
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm talking about is like going into hiding, kind of like, you know, after, I'm assuming anything that happened after, because they really don't talk about what happened between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. You know, Rogue One didn't touch up on any of that either, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And maybe the new movies coming out, the Han Solo movie will fill in some gaps, and if they're going to make an Obi-Wan movie, maybe that'll fill in some gaps too. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with more Rogue One movies.
Yeah, I think those will make more sense because they're going to be one-shots, and we already know what happens pretty much
I'm
after
actually
that.
looking forward to those, man, because they're different. They're not following the, like you said, Nelson, the Star Wars formula, right? They're totally different.
Solo story.
Yeah,
you know, it is what it is.
Hey, so before we kind of give our closing remarks about the movie, just real quick, so the next one, of course, is J.J. Abrams. I'm excited for that one, man. I think he'll do a great job. I enjoyed The Force Awakens. So I'm not even worried about that. I'm glad this guy is not directing number 9. I know he's directed the new trilogy, which we don't know, I think, what it's going to be about. And I'm willing to give him another chance just because it's going to be different, right? It's not going to be following the Skywalker saga or anything like that. So maybe they can go into the Old Republic. That would be nice. But I don't know if they're going that route. I'm willing to give him another chance, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, man, it's a Star Wars film. I enjoyed it. It's a tradition that my daughter and I have been doing every year. Like you said, Dave, I mean, my kids love it, man. My 10-year-old daughter, she loves Star Wars. She looks forward every year, and we get a movie every year, right?
Yeah.
You know, she's heard my reviews. It bothers her. It's funny because she'll push me, and I was like, I don't like the porn. But it's fun, man. So let's go ahead and give our last remarks about the movie, and then we can end the show. I'll close it out. So I'll start off with you, Dan. Just a quick remark about the movie, man, and we'll go from there.
Overall, I came in with, I guess, mediocre expectations. You know, I'd heard about reviews and stuff, and I left the film very satisfied with seeing how Rian Johnson had taken or interpreted what the Force is and the Jedi are, and I think it brings a lot of interesting questions to the table, and I think it resolved a lot of issues and questions in The Force Awakens in interesting ways. Overall, if I had to give it out of 10, I'd say this film was like an 8.5 for me. But like anything great, there's a lot of flaws. The entire Canto bite scene could have just not existed, and there was pacing issues. But as I said, like overall, challenging the concepts of what it means to be a Star Wars movie. I see films as an experiment, and I think he took a lot of risks. Some failed, bad jokes, and I think a lot of other successes. We saw a very peaceful Luke, leave where a lot of people would have felt maybe worse if he had gone out in another way. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. So
cool.
That's about
what about you, Dave?
I'm gonna go see it again, and again, I'm not gonna try to go in there thinking that maybe I missed something, maybe, and I didn't go to the bathroom at all during this movie, so there's not a single scene that I missed. But I'm gonna go see it on IMAX just for the thrills. To go there just with no expectations, just enjoy the fighting scenes, just kind of, you know, go. I'm gonna take my kids with me and just go and experience it just as a film and not have to dissect it like we're doing tonight. Because I don't really like dissecting Star Wars films.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but you know, at the end of this film and when the film was over, and maybe it was different for you guys, but everyone in the movie theater was silent. Nobody clapped. Everybody got up out of their seats, walked out of the theater. No one was talking to each other.
Yeah.
No one was asking questions about the movie and what they thought and all this, you know, whispers. It was just silence walking to the car.
Like, what did I see?
Silence in the parking lot. Yeah, it was kind of like, you know, I've never experienced a Star Wars movie like that in the theater and have it end where I was underwhelmed. And I know a lot of people walked out of the film as well, I heard. They just didn't want to experience it anymore. They didn't want it to be any more ruined than it any more. How do you say it? To ruin your childhood any more than it already did.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the scene with Luke dying. I thought it was done very well. I don't like a lot of things about the films, and it's hard for me to even make it above like a 5 out of 10 for me. It's got to be it's probably like a 4 to me, man.
What about you, Nelson?
Well, when I watched the movie initially, I was like, you know, because I already saw you guys commenting on it, I was like, hey, well, the movie really wasn't that bad. What are they talking about? But then I went and just sat down and focused on the parts of the movie themselves, you know, the movie itself, and I was like, dude, this is like, you know, it's like how Dan said, it's an evolving Star Wars movie. Like they're burning stuff, you know. I'm saying this is done, dude. We're not doing that anymore. We're doing this. And that's fine. You know, I don't mind playing devil's advocate, but at the same time, you know, having my beef with parts and stuff like that. You know, being in a band, you have to do that. You know, especially if you're a drummer, you have to play both parts. Be like, hey, I understand what you're trying to do. That's not working to this. So, you know, I got to experience both aspects of liking it, but at the same time hating everything they did to my childhood, like Dave said.
Let the past die.
Yeah. So exactly.
You kept hearing that in the movie a lot.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to do. So, you know, and since I'm in the middle, like I still love the originals. I'm gonna have to say, like, I'm gonna give it a 4.5. You know. Yeah.
You know, after watching the movie 2 times, you know, there was a theme in there that kept saying, I think Kylo kept saying, "Let it go."
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I know you guys can relate to this, but I mean, I don't know. It's just me personally, I can't let it go. I guess, but I don't know. I came into this movie, like I said, high expectations. I wanted questions answered. I mean, even after, you know, reviewing what we just talked about, if you really think about it, we had a lot of good and a lot of bad, right? There's a lot of bad stuff in the movie, like bad jokes, bad scenes. We dissected it. We could remove this. We could take this out. We can change this. But in the end, man, overall, my expectations were just not met. And I think that if I would have went into the movies with no high expectations, I think I would have given it a higher rating. But I think for me, it's just that I wanted answers to questions from The Force Awakens, and I didn't get those. Was the movie entertaining in some parts? Of course it was. Would I have changed some parts? I would have. Would I have removed some parts? I would have as well. But at the end of the day, it's Star Wars. I enjoy going to the movies. Like I said, it's a tradition with me and my daughter. We enjoy the universe. You know, I saw it 2 times. It was fun here and there, but it was just kind of a letdown just because I wanted questions answered. I wanted to know who Rey's parents were. I wanted more screen time for Captain Phasma. I wanted a background on Leader Snoke. And, you know, because I didn't get those answers, I just felt like kind of let down, right? When I left The Force Awakens, I was like, whoa, that was awesome. When I left Rogue One, that was amazing. I after Rogue One, I even turned to my daughter and to some other friends, and I said, Disney's 2 for 2 now. After post Lucas, right? They're 2 for 2. So the next one, it's going to be amazing. And are there some amazing parts in the film? Of course there are. But overall, as a whole, it was just a letdown for me. So my score stands 5 out of 10. I wish it was higher, but it was fun. It was fun, man. Star Wars is about being with friends and seeing the movies with your loved ones, and that's the best part about it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining. Dan, appreciate your visit, man. Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it.
Hopefully we can do another one of these pretty soon. Hopefully you guys are down. We'll schedule it. All of the viewers who's watching the show, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave us a comment on our YouTube or our Instagram. Until next time.
You didn't ask Snoke his opinion of the movie, man.
What's your opinion, Snoke?
He's split.
He's split. He can sense it. All right, thank you all. Y'all have a good one.
All right, guys.
Hey, man,
May the force be with you.
Let the past die.
Let the past die.